Okay, we are recording.
Okay, thank you. Um, Good evening, everybody. I am Dr. Kenyon, and on the line with me is Dr. Lois Hine tonight. And tonight we're just going to give a quick overview of NUR334 Global Health. I just want to welcome all of you that are watching this video. So those of you that have Dr. Hine, even though it says Dr. Kenyon on what we're about to review, your information will be very similar to this as well when you pull this information up in your coursework. So first and foremost, if you hit the home button and the syllabus, you'll have everything available at your fingertips that you'll need to know for your class. So in the syllabus, you'll find your instructor's information, how to contact them, what their office hours are, and then, of course, the course description as well. So this class is going to give you an overview of global health and what healthcare looks like across the globe and some of the different diverse health populations that are out there, and just maybe how patient care is different from one country to the next. This is a great class, and I know you're really going to enjoy the information in it. So the course learning outcomes for this course. So upon completion of this course, students will be able to describe global health concepts and theories, employ ethical principles and global perspectives to promote health of diverse populations, examine professional nursing involvement, including leadership roles to promote health and prevent disease of diverse populations, plan patient-centered care with sensitivity and respect for the diverse cultural, ethnic, and social backgrounds of global populations, compare diverse healthcare delivery systems for provision of quality, cost-effective care, discuss threats to global health, and then identify scholarly sources of global health indicators. So throughout this course, you'll have threaded discussions, lesson plans, assignments. All of this is going to be gone over here in just a couple of minutes. You'll have your Introduction to Global Health textbook. This is the 3rd edition, and you will need the 2019 version if you don't already have that. We also have available to you the Learn Network, and the login information is also located on the Resources tab for that as well. Excuse me. So we have the general course policies. All of these should be very familiar to those of you who've taken online classes before. I just want to point out a couple of things for you to remember. Just remember that we do take attendance on Thursdays and Monday mornings. So please make sure that you're posting in the discussions accordingly so that you do get credit for your attendance. And scrolling down here, we have our grading criteria. Again, all of this should be familiar to you if you're an EagleGate online student, so you should be very familiar. You do need a 77% or higher to pass this course. And then here you'll see, I hope you can see all of this screen. I've got the GoToMeeting thing up here on the right, but you'll be able to see the evaluation methods. So the threaded discussions are worth 375 points. Weekly quizzes are worth 200 points. You have assignment due week 3, which we'll talk about here shortly. That's worth 125 points. Your midterm, which is going to be during week 4, will be worth 75 points. You'll have another assignment week 7 that's going to talk about evaluating global progress and meeting sustainable development goals. That's worth another 125 points. And then finally, you have your final exam in week 7. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to do a kind of course overview and kind of discuss these a little bit. So we've already been through week 1, so all of this is done and in the books already, so great job there. We're in week 2 right now, so as you know, you've got your 2 discussions and a quiz. Next week, you'll have your 2 discussions, a quiz, and the Module 3 assignment. So let's talk about that for just a minute. So for your Module 3 assignment, this is going to be, you'll be discussing the refugees and displaced persons. So we're looking at some healthcare issues across the globe here. This assignment is worth 125 points, or 12.5% of the overall course grade. So what you're going to be looking at is you're going to explore refugees and internally displaced people. You'll be looking at their healthcare needs, some barriers, stressors faced by these groups, and then of course you're going to examine some similarities. This is going to allow you to kind of look at maybe at some different countries that you haven't thought about where refugees are present and some of the different plights that they may face in certain countries versus others. It's really going to be very enlightening for you, and I hope you get a lot out of this assignment. So this assignment is going to focus on examining professional nursing involvement, including leadership roles to promote health and prevent disease of diverse populations. So we're looking at these vulnerable populations across the lifespan. We're going to be exploring mental illness in this as well. And then, of course, we're going to be planning a patient-centered care with sensitivity and respect for diverse cultural, ethnic, and social backgrounds of global populations. So for this assignment, what you'll want to do is you're going to want to look at a massive population site from a country that has some internal displacement or perhaps refugees seeking asylum in a bordering country. This can be any country across the globe, but something that's happened recently, definitely in the last 5 years. You should have no trouble looking and finding some of this information. You'll then describe the situation in detail, look at what led these folks to fleeing their homes and maybe what caused that, and then you'll identify whether the population is refugees or if they're an internally displaced people. You'll also look at the statistics being used to evaluate the impact of the crisis. So that can include the numbers, how many people this affected, demographics such as whether this was men, women, children, and then of course other vulnerable populations such as perhaps the elderly or pregnant women, and of course the mentally ill. You'll look at 2 possible major health needs of the internally displaced people or refugees. You'll discuss 2 possible psychological responses. You'll need to discuss their responses in detail. We'll talk about that in just a minute when we look at the rubric. You'll talk about 2 stressors that these internally displaced people or refugees face when they've relocated to a new country. And then finally, you'll summarize the conclusions regarding the plight of these people. So down below here, and you have the same view on your screen, you'll be able to look at the rubric and how we'll be grading this particular paper. So the assignment criteria here, you can see via the rubric how we're going to be looking at this. So for the first section, when you're describing in detail the people that you're going to be exploring, we're looking for a very detailed description of these people. Who are they? Where are they from? What are they fleeing from? So we're really looking for a thorough and complete discussion here of the people that you're looking at. We're then going to look at the statistics being used. So how many people total? What is the percentage of men to women? What is the percentage of vulnerable populations? I'm sorry, I just saw a chat pop up. Hold on just a moment. Could these be people in the U.S. who were displaced by fire or flood or other major disasters? That's an interesting question. I've not been asked that one before. I mean, I would think so. Lois, do you have anything, or Dr. Hine, do you have anything you'd like to maybe?
Well, we're saying it's a displaced population. We didn't say it had to be outside of the United States. That would be an internally displaced group. So, I mean,
Yes.
A lot of people, and there could be some real disparity in how they're getting access to health care and what could happen. So if there's good literature out there on the people that were displaced by the major floods from natural disasters, or I mean, it could be other countries as well, because we've had some terrible hurricanes and horrible storms. So it could be the United States or it could be another country.
I can't hear. Yeah, that's a great point. I think about the California fires, over the last couple of years as well. So many people still haven't been able to return home. So that's a great question. So thank you for bringing that up. So yeah, as Dr. Hine was just saying, an internally displaced people could be right here in the United States. So thank you so much for pointing that out, Dr. Hine. Further on down here in the rubric, describe 2 possible major health needs of the internally displaced people or refugees. Be specific, support your conclusions. Looking right at this question, I think, we've heard a lot about folks dying at the Texas-Mexico border of influenza over the last 6 months. So that would be one such example. But we really need a good description. This needs to be thorough. It needs to be supported by the articles and the information that you come across for that as well. Further down here, we have 2 possible psychological responses of the internally displaced people or refugees. So we need you to discuss their responses in detail. Like Dr. Hine was saying, perhaps somebody who has been displaced by flood or fire, something to that effect. What is their psychological responses going to be? They're going to be fearful, they're going to be maybe despairing. There's going to be quite a few psychological responses. So what are two of the major ones that have affected these displaced folks? You'll want to discuss at least two stressors that the internally displaced people or refugees face when they've relocated in their new country. Remember, so maybe some of these folks who were affected in the fire, maybe they've had to move across country and they're in a whole new community and a whole new environment. Think about how that is going to affect them and the type of stresses that they might face. And then finally, summarize your conclusions and discuss how nurses can impact and help alleviate their suffering. So just provide a nice summary, go into quite a bit of detail, summarize that information, and make sure that it's thorough and complete as well. The paper is expected to be 3 to 5 pages in length. That does not include the title and reference page. References do and must include a minimum of 2 current scholarly resources. You can review the list of scholarly resources under the announcements page within the course. We will be looking at the APA formatting of the paper itself. So we'll be looking at that title page, your citations, your references, in-text citations, so on and so forth. And then, of course, rules of grammar, spelling, punctuation. So please just make sure that you're using Grammarly if you're utilizing that software, and make sure that you're proofreading your work before you upload it. So that is the Module 3 assignment.
Dr.
Yes.
On that Module 3 assignment, let's go back to the very top, the instructions. I think we need to make a correction because it said about you will also examine similarities and differences between the two groups. It's just one group they're going to be examining, right? One set of displaced persons or refugees.
I believe that is the case. So yes.
Maybe we've updated this and we just left the two groups here. So we'll get in and correct that before the students even have to start on it. But they're not examining two different sets of refugees, just one set.
Okay, thank you so much for clarifying that, Dr. Hine. We'll get this updated as soon as we've completed this evening. Thank you. Okay. So then back to Module 4 here. Again, a reminder, you do have your midterm during week 4, Module 4. Module 5 is just going to include your discussion posts and a quiz. Module 6 will have 2 discussion posts and a quiz. You'll also be able to take your end of course survey at this point. Module 7 is your next major assignment. So you'll have your 2 discussion posts, your final exam, and then you'll also have your Module 7 assignment, which we'll look at right now. So this assignment is going to look at evaluating global progress in meeting the Sustainable Development Goals. So again, this assignment is also worth 125 points. So you'll look at and choose a sustainable development goal that you're interested in. So what you'll do is you'll click on the WHO website for the Sustainable Development Goals, and I'll just click on this really quick so that you can get a quick glance of what that will look like. And this will give you an example of some of the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, that the World Health Organization has available to you. You can click on the Global Action Plan, and then that will take you, my internet will work, that will take you into the Global Action Plan, and then it will also allow you to look at some of these SDGs that the World Health Organization has available as well. So I highly recommend too the infographics that they have available. Hint, hint, these are fantastic. So be sure to check those out. So then when you have chosen the SDG that you wish to look at, you'll come back and then you'll go ahead, you'll look at the data visualization dashboard, and you can click on a specific goal, you'll review those statistics, and then you can read the report about your chosen goal. It's recommended too that you just kind of be creative and look for as much information as you can to complete the assignment. And we'll talk about the grading rubric below. The key concepts in this assignment are going to be global health policies, Millennium Development Goals, Sustainable Development Goals. We're examining professional nursing involvement, including leadership roles to promote health and prevent disease of diverse populations. We're going to identify scholarly sources of global health indicators, and these are the goals that we're going to be meeting in these learning objectives. So the instructions for this assignment are, you'll access the WHO website as we described above. You'll identify and describe the SDG that you've chosen. You'll also want to discuss the reasons as to why you chose it. So why did this particular topic catch your eye, and why did you think you wanted to explore this one a little bit further? You'll describe the progress or lack of progress made in your SDG. You'll look at the outcome measures used and then describe which regions of the world are meeting the goal and which are not. You'll identify a factor hindering or aiding in the successful meeting of the goal. And you'll look at some regions of the world that are impacted by these factors. We do ask that you be specific when describing these. You'll look at interventions or changes that are being considered to assist in the successful meeting of the goal. And then, of course, which regions are targeted for the interventions. You'll look at 2 ways nursing can increase success in meeting the goal. You'll look at which nursing organizations can assist and in what ways. And then how can you influence meeting the goal locally, nationally, and globally. So again, we're going to look at the rubric. So you'll introduce the topic, you'll identify and describe the SDG that you've chosen, you'll talk about the reasons for choosing it. And remember, we're looking for a thorough answer here. So we're looking for a pretty detailed explanation as to why this caught your eye, why did you want to explore this topic. You'll describe the progress or lack of progress made in your SDG. You'll discuss the outcome measures used and describe the regions which are meeting and which are not meeting that goal. Excuse me. You'll identify a factor hindering or aiding in the successful meeting of the goal. So you're going to look at the regions of the world that are impacted by these factors. So be specific. If there's 20 countries, at least list most of them and discuss that. You'll look at interventions or changes that are being considered to assist in the successful meeting of the goal. And then, of course, you're going to also look at some of the regions that are targeted for interventions. Why are those regions targeted for interventions? Look at that information and then look at the data that's out there and share in your paper why those regions are specifically being targeted for certain interventions. You'll also want to discuss the ways that nurses can increase success in meeting the goal. How do nurses play into this? What is their importance? Which nursing organizations can assist? Which ones are assisting already? What ways are they assisting? We're looking for a pretty thorough explanation into this as to how nurses are impacting the goal itself. And then finally, how can you influence meeting this goal locally, nationally, and globally? So be specific as to how you as an individual can help meet this goal and how this goal is going to be met and what some of the changes and challenges might be. So we just ask that you please be specific when you're describing that and going through that information. So as the other paper was, this paper is expected to be a minimum of 3 to 5 pages in length. That does exclude title and reference pages. And we do expect a minimum of 2 current scholarly resources. So again, we're looking at that APA format. We're looking for the title page, citations, and references. And again, we're looking at the grammar, making sure that punctuation, everything is consistent with that formal written work expectation. We're also going to be looking at the 80-20 rule. So we want to make sure that 80% or more of that assignment is in your own words. So please make sure to paraphrase as much as possible and not use those direct citations and quotes. So that is the Module 7 assignment. And then finally for week 8, we have the lecture, and then you'll have 1 discussion question in week 8, and that will be due Wednesday by 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So that kind of goes over the modules. I just want to do a quick overview of the resource center that we have available for all of you. So if you click on the Pages tab to the left of your screen, you'll have all of your resources here. So we have our catalog and handbook. We have information as to how to contact and who to contact for technical support. The next tab over talks about any Canvas help. So you can look on how to view your instructor feedback, getting the Canvas app set up for your phone, setting up notifications, and then a guide as to how to use Canvas. Probably the best one to use here is going to be the library resources. We have our list of approved scholarly resources. So all of these listed here are ones that we consider acceptable, that are scholarly in nature and are allowable on the discussion forums. And then, of course, we have the do not use websites. So things like Wikipedia, the dictionary blogs, things of that nature. As I mentioned earlier, we also have the Learn Network. So this is our online library. So this gives you a brief overview, if you click here, how to search Learn, as to how to search in Learn and how to get the information that you're searching for. And then, of course, to log in, we have our username and our password here. So the password is actually capital EAGLEGAT3. So just be mindful of that, or just copy and paste it in when you're logging into the Learn Network. So we also have access to the OVID, and you can access that using the user ID Provo999 and password Eagle01, and the EBSDO host with the username and password listed here as well. These are all great resources. If you're not familiar with any of these, please feel free to reach out to myself or Dr. Hein, and we'll be glad to, go through those with you and give you some more pointers as to how to find the information that you're looking for. For those of you who may need a little bit of extra APA writing help, we have a APA how-to video here that is fantastic, and I highly recommend reviewing this. We also have a condensed version too, for those who like the Cliff Notes version. And then, of course, for those of you who are looking for access to Office 365 and how to get that information, you can click here, and then you'll be able to get that access downloaded and get that on your computer. And then finally, we have our student services resources here. So the United Way, Child Care, Homeless Shelter, and then, of course, common hotline numbers. So that wraps up everything that I have. Dr. Hein, is there anything that we've missed or that we should review yet?
No, I think you covered it quite well. And I was thinking about that question we had about the displaced persons in the United States. And with all the major hurricanes and the fires and things, isn't that all related to global warming? And boy, as a world, we're all connected.
Yes, absolutely. And that's such a great way to tie all of that together, Dr. Hein. Thank you so much. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and close now. So thank you, everybody who has watched this. And if you do have any questions, please reach out to Dr. Hein or myself.